Now, a couple months ago, I stumbled across this manga called Mashle, Magic and Muscles, and it's about a kid called Mashle that lives in a world full of mages. But here's the catch: he's the only one in this world without any magic power. Now, the downside to that is the society prides itself on having so much magic power. If you were born without it, you're basically no more than cattle, and you're most likely targeted for death. Now, protecting yourself in this world is probably very scary, and Mashle finds one way to protect himself. One way that has never ever failed the human existence. One way that will always prevail: going to the gym. That's right. To combat flying lightning arrows, to combat sound waves that can pierce your skin, to combat gushing waves of water, Mashle simply goes to the gym and is able to go toe to toe with the best mages of his society. Now, I'm not going to ruin too much of the premise, but I am going to talk about the pros and cons of this manga. And to be honest, I do think it's a great read. I do believe people should read it, but there are a few things I don't think are too great. But for the most part, all of it's actually really positive. Now, upon first reading this manga, I did draw a very immediate comparison to Saitama. When you read it, you'll see exactly what I mean, and I hope you're not all just very impressionable and you just listen to everything I say, which I generally doubt you do. But Mashle seems a lot like Saitama. I wouldn't be surprised if the basis for Mashle's character and his whole development was based off of Saitama himself. The key similarities between them are that they're very indifferent to basically everything, they're very socially unaware, and they both possess monstrous strength that's unnatural to the worlds they live in. I believe that's very similar. I think the first thing we should probably talk about is the art style. First off, Mashle is actually very beautiful, and the character design is actually immaculate. It reminds me a little bit of One Piece. I say this because when, Oda's drawing characters, I think there's a theme in mind. He creates them very long-legged, if that's an actual word. Oda seems to like very tall, slender-looking characters, and that's just always been his character design. Mashle seems to do the same thing, but in a different way. For example, the characters in Mashle seem top-heavy, but it's just because their legs are really slender, and I do like that character design. Why? Because it's different. It's not the same generic sort of shonen protag, yeah, I'm cool, I got a nice waist, I got abs, all that stuff. But it's very nice, it's unique, it's something that's very, very different, and to be honest, I 100% second it, I am behind it. And it's something very interesting to look at, and to be honest, when artists and mangakas, artists or mangakas, whatever you want to call them, when they come out with different things like a new character design, a new way of drawing a face, a new way of drawing the human anatomy, I think it's very interesting because it's not what we're used to. It's not what everyone is used to always seeing, and I think that's very important in terms of making a beautiful manga. Now, in terms of story, Mashle doesn't seem to have a lot of depth, to be honest. I'm not saying it's absolutely baseless, but I'm saying it's not this intricate story that you have to unweave, unravel, and sort of take your time to digest. The story is pretty reasonable, the story is pretty understandable, but I do believe the story is really inspiring because Mashle represents a part in humanity that's been long forgotten. It's been cast away almost as an inferior version of humanity, when that's not the case. I believe when you celebrate differences, I believe humanity is stronger together, and the story does sort of push that narrative, especially with the leader kind of role, the Kakashi type kind of role in this manga. And to be honest, I think that's important. I think it's good to have Mashle be the beacon of hope for people with no powers, because I do believe in this world that if you don't have powers, you are likely to get killed. It isn't a maybe, it isn't a sometimes, you're most likely gonna get killed. And I think it's fun that the story does sort of harp on that point. Now, in terms of depth and in terms of being this absolute showstopper, it's not that. If you're looking for a good read, Mashle is 100% something you need to read, because I have thoroughly enjoyed it. The fights are very dynamic. Mashle himself is actually quite funny at times. The general ambiance of the whole manga is actually very well put together. Now, my only complaint about the manga is that I don't know whether to consider Mashle a gag character or whether to consider him a serious character. It's a little ambiguous because sometimes it's not clear where his strength comes from. Because think about it, when you're in a superpowered society and everyone uses magic, everyone boosts themselves to use magic, but you simply go to the gym or are able to keep, toe to toe with them, I believe it's a little bit odd. And I don't know where his power comes from, because for the most part, I don't think Mashle actually has any physical enhancements that I know of. And it is quite odd that he's able to keep up with these people without having any sort of magic or any sort of special ability. Well, as of now, I am currently caught up, so as of now, we don't know if he does. If he does, that would explain a lot. If he doesn't, that would explain absolutely nothing, and I still wouldn't know whether to consider him a gag character or an actual character that I should be taking seriously. But either way, Mashle is an absolutely amazing manga to read, and to be honest, it's not that long. If you got some time to kill, give it a go. Now, for the most part, I just wanted to suggest that. Thank you very much for watching. Amo Sensei out. Peace.